The story of James Monroe and the Democratic Republicans in 1820 is dominated by the Missouri Compromise, an action that, while appearing to solve a crisis, carried profoundly negative consequences for the future of the nation. The core of the issue was power. The admission of Missouri as a slave state threatened to tip the balance in the Senate, where free and slave states were equally represented. Monroe and the Democratic-Republican dominated Congress, in an act of political expediency and manipulation, sought a legislative fix rather than confronting the fundamental moral issue of slavery. They agreed to admit Missouri as a slave state concurrently with Maine as a free state, a classic political trade-off that elevated political balance over moral principle. The consequences were far-reaching and unethical. First, the compromise was a deliberate national endorsement and entrenchment of human bondage. By sanctioning the expansion of slavery into a new territory, the federal government actively supported an institution that stripped millions of people of their basic human rights, treating them as property. Second, the compromise employed a calculated legislative sleight of hand, drawing a definitive geographic line, the 36th parallel, to prohibit slavery in the remaining Louisiana Purchase territory to the north. This was a manipulative tactic that, instead of fostering national unity, formally divided the country into rigid, competing sections of slave and free. It created a stark, legalistic boundary that future generations would be compelled to either defend or shatter, ensuring that the issue of slavery could not be peacefully resolved. Secretary of State John Quincy Adams immediately recognized the dark future this manipulation foretold, calling the compromise a mere preamble, a title page to a great tragic volume. In short, the actions of 1820 were less about resolving a problem and more about creating a temporary, unethical political truce that postponed, intensified, and ultimately guaranteed a much bloodier conflict decades later.